Nobody is safe in this day and age of recruiting. You have the NIL, you have the transfer portal, and Dan Lanning understands this. In today's episode, we're going to talk about Saturday Night Lights, a little camp that went on in Eugene this past weekend, Oregon's first big media day, a little feud going on between Dan Lanning and Kirby Smart, and then 99 to 13. We'll tell you what that all is. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the CFB Nation. I am SC Romero. Welcome to the O.
All right, everybody got goals and aspirations. You know how you get those? You be the best where you're at.
What does Evan Stewart bring to the table here? In short, you get a baller.
The grass is not always green. In fact, the grass is damn green in Eugene.
The grass is damn green in Eugene, a quote that will live in infamy in the lands of the duck. Dan Lanning, man, he is doing something special. And as I said before in the intro here, is nobody is safe in the new era of recruiting. And we're going to talk about a little bit about that right now. This past weekend, Oregon hosted a camp and they had, SNL Saturday Night Lights, where they had a plethora of individuals come out all the way to the 2028 class, and that's important because recruiting starts, let's just say now, recruiting starts early for these young athletes. And it's about these athletes being able to showcase their skills and their development throughout their high school careers to get to that collegiate level. These coaches don't want to see a senior for the first time. They want to see this incoming freshman, this eighth grader, and sometimes to say like, okay, let's keep our eye on him and watch how he progresses. So on this Saturday Night Lights, we're going to talk about some athletes that I'm excited about to see what's going to happen in their recruiting process. First being the wide receiver, Chris Henry Jr. From Mater Dei High School in California. If you follow me on X at the PPR, I talk about Mater Dei, man. Mater Dei produces heavy talent. They always have some top prospects in, and they're a high school that knows how to develop skills for these young athletes. Chris Henry Jr., man, he's explosive off the snap. He's about 6'5", has great hit movement, great speed, great catch radius. He honestly may end up being the wide receiver one in the 2026 class. A lot can change from then and now, but he has all the skill sets to do that. Right now, he is committed to Ohio State, but again, nobody is safe. Dan Lanning right now, it's not about being disrespectful to Ohio State or to Michigan or to LSU or Georgia or whoever it is. It's about being a shark in this pond that we call the Duck Nation, right? It's about being aggressive and going after these guys. And in today's day and age, commitment's hard. You're like, oh yeah, I want to be committed, but then you go somewhere like Eugene and you understand the culture that's there. You understand the energy, and then you're like, man, I didn't get this love where I was originally committed to. I'm gonna flip that commitment. We're seeing it day in, day out. All these high school athletes are flipping their commitments. And hey, no foul to you, man. I want you to succeed, and whatever you end up doing to flip that, I just hope you succeed, that you make that right decision, you succeed. Right. So right now he is committed to Ohio State. He's getting early comps on 247 Sports to Mike Evans. Great athlete. Ohio State, arguably the best wide receiver school in the nation. So I get it. But, man, Oregon's cooking. And now that we're in the Big Ten, that's a wide receiver to watch in the 2026 class. In the 2026 class, too, a defensive lineman. I've already talked about him plenty of times here. James Carrington from Bishop Gorman High School in Nevada. Again, if you don't know, Bishop Gorman High School produces studs. They are consistently one of the top schools in Nevada, consistently one of the top schools in the nation. They know what they're doing. They know how to produce and get to that next level for these athletes as well. James Carrington, man, he already has 30 offers. He's a big-time athlete. He knows what he needs to do. He knows how to get to that next level and build up on those opportunities as well. I'm excited to see what's going to happen with him when he finally makes that collegiate decision. Still up in there, 30 offers. He has a lot to think about. 2026 class, so he has plenty of time to think about it, but, man, he's someone to keep on your radars for sure. Another edge rusher that's caught my eye from the Saturday Night Lights is going to be Dutch Horrocks, and I may have said that name incorrectly, so I apologize, Dutch, if I did. But from St. John Bosco in California, another school that I've mentioned on X, that they produce talent too. They have a lot of guys, and they're producing some great defensive linemen right now. And this kid has relentless pursuit, man. He attacks like a lion hunting a gazelle. Like he is just aggressive off the snap. He has fantastic hand movement, fantastic hip movement. And if he gets around the edge, which he does more times than not, guess what? The quarterback better let go of the ball as soon as possible. Like if he blinks, he's already there and he catches you. That's Duck Horse, St. John Bosco. 19 offers right now, and this kid's like 230, 6'1, 6'2. Definitely a monster to keep an eye on. These last two guys, other defenders, I'm excited to talk about these because we've talked about, with Oregon moving to the Big Ten, it opens up their recruiting. Why? Because now you can go to other states on the East Coast and be like, hey, man, we're actually playing here in your state. We're actually playing here so you can actually still be in front of your family. Prior to that, when they're in the Pac-12, you're playing predominantly West Coast teams. You may have an East Coast team here and there, predominantly West Coast. So it's hard to attract those East Coast athletes to us, right? Because it's like you're far away from home and you have to get uncomfortable when you want to go into these universities like Oregon and you're saying living in Ohio. You have to get uncomfortable to do that. But guess what? Now we are in the Big Ten. We play Ohio State, So first one, linebacker Cam Thomas out of Lakota West High School in Ohio. No offers from Oregon right now, but he was at the Saturday Night Lights, has 25 offers. He keeps his eyes on the quarterback, and his footwork to get around the edge is phenomenal. This guy will be a phenomenal QB spy. He has that speed to be aggressive and get to that level, has great pursuit on the ball, and his awareness of where the ball's at every single time is superb as well. Another guy, a safety, Jurrion Edwards from St. Francis Academy in Maryland. Again, schools, we can go across the nation and recruit these guys now. It just opens it up more so from him. This guy has 21 offers right now, none from Oregon yet. But again, he was at Saturday Night Lights. Lockdown defender, can excel in man or coverage in the zone, has great ball skills to get after it, and he also knows how to tackle. Really fits in what Oregon is looking for in those safeties. As we're progressing to the Big Ten, yes, we still have that speed, but it's also about the physicality and what they can do. This was an exciting one. They had, again, a plethora of athletes here. These are some that caught my eye. A lot of them more from the East Coast too. We still had that West Coast here, but it was still phenomenal to see. But on top of that, Oregon had their first Big Ten Media Day, and Dan Lanning actually opened it up, and I'm going to quote here what he said. He said, fall camp is here. It's a sign of football is here. We have to get guys uncomfortable. We can't build an entire team from the Pacific Northwest. That's key. That's no disrespect to Pacific Northwest. It's just reality is to compete with these top dogs, you have to go to the states that produce consistent talent. Your Texas, your Ohio State, your Florida, all these type of schools that know to produce talent, you have to go out there and get them as well. So we can't build a team for the Pacific Northwest. We're a melting pot in the locker room. People come here and they want to sign up to something different. They want to compete, and yet we still have a family piece that makes it special. That's a beautiful thing because especially as we get into fall camp, every single athlete that steps onto the field at Autzen Stadium is going there to compete. There's no disrespect if you lose your spot to someone else. It's like, all right, I'm going to work harder. And that's something that they build in, that competition, that velocity, that energy, that give 110% even at practice, but also the energy to understand, look, man, we're uncomfortable too, even heading to the Big Ten. And when you're coming here, we're going to be uncomfortable with you. And we're going to make it known, hey, we're going to get through this together. He had a few other questions. He talked about Dillon Gabriel. He just said Gabriel has great self-awareness. For those that don't know, he's going to be the quarterback for Oregon this year, transfer from Oklahoma. Coaching on his strength is what they're going to do in this fall camp to really excel. That's what Oregon excels at mostly when it comes to their whole offense and defensive system, is coaching on these guys' strengths, but yet enhancing their weaknesses as well. The way he's coming to practice has stepped up to be a vocal leader will continue into the season, is what Lanning's saying as well, which is phenomenal. It's great that stepping in his first year in Oregon, he's already came out and said, yo, I am the leader. He's already making it vocally heard to this locker room saying, I am a leader of the Oregon Ducks now. Follow me and I will lead you to glory. That's what my mindset, at least what Dillon Gabriel's happening right now, which is great to see as well. He did say, what was the biggest change since he's taken over this season? And one thing he mentioned was depth of our team is a lot different, which is great. A lot more competition on the team, bigger on both sides of the ball. We have more leadership on our team than we had initially when he got here, which I know he's shouting out the players here and what they're doing, but shout out Dan Lanning, man. Again, he's building a nice coaching tree and a nice culture to have that kind of atmosphere for these athletes to come in here and say, look, we're bigger than just this team, right? It's the state of Oregon in a sense, right? We're bigger than that. And we're going out here to compete, not only against the teams we're facing, yes, together we are united and we are an Oregon University united to defeat every team we get together. But we're also competing against each other. Why? Because the right competition makes people better. There could be some negative competition, don't get me wrong, and those people end up weeding themselves out anyways. But the right competition makes everyone better, and that's what Oregon is building there as well. He was asked, talk a little bit about building up the defensive line. He said, you want guys that can play winning football. You want guys that can go in there at any given time. They don't necessarily need to start the game off. Go in there at any given time and play winning football. They don't want them to play 75 snaps a game, he says. We want to spread the wealth so they are on the field and they can play at a really high level. This makes me think about the New York Giants a few years back when they won the Super Bowl. That defensive line was consistently rotating. Strahan was there, Took was there. You had different guys in there consistently rotating. But you look back at it, one of the most dominant defensive lines of all time. That's something that I'm not saying Oregon's going to have the most dominant, but that's something that's key because to have these guys play at a high level, you have to, give them some time off to rest, give them some breaks. But that means the next guy in that's taking some opportunity away from him to, give him some rest needs to step up and play winning football, which is what you love to see as well. He was asked heading in, what excites you about this year? And he says opportunity, right? Of course, every opportunity. The guys have worked hard this offseason. Our guys don't take anything for granted. The work it requires for them to stepping in on the field on Saturday. Every year you're going to have adversity. I want to see how our guys respond to that is what Lanning says, which is key. And it's not just about on the football field. Oregon produces guys that also are academic scholars that are going there and getting degrees. And Dan Lanning wants that. He was talking about some of the athletes that, went to the pros that he's like, we still see them here because they're getting their degrees as well. And that's what we want, building up a future, not just to say, hey, yeah, we can get you to NFL. Not everyone's going to NFL. That's just reality. But yeah, we can help you still build on that future by giving you that education, giving you the discipline when you're within our locker room to take with you in life in general. And that's going to be key. Injuries happen. Being down 7, 14, 20 in a game, whatever it may be, that happens. How do you respond when you throw an interception? How do you respond when you have a pick and you don't get it? All these little things play and how you can build up on that mental health and that just awareness of what these athletes can bring to the table. So Dan Lanning's excited about Oregon this year. We are too. Can't wait for him to see it. Speaking of Lanning in Oregon, he comes from the tree of Nick Saban. Nick Saban, arguably the best college football coach in the history of college football, just a dominant time at Alabama. He retired this past season, and it's going to be interesting to see what Bama does this year. But speaking of that tree that Nick Saban built, Kirby Smart at Georgia is also from that tree. So Dan Lanning and Kirby Smart, they know a little bit about that, right? And Kirby Smart has came out and said, I wish we had all the NIL money to recruit top athletes. And, everyone's taking a shot because Phil Knight and, Nike's behind Oregon. We get new uniforms every year. And Phil Knight came out and said unlimited money. He didn't say unlimited money, but he said any amount of money, take it. If you needed to get these athletes, take it. I got you. Yeah, people are jealous. I get it. Guess what? I'm sorry you're not in Oregon. I'm sorry that your guy, whoever's sponsoring you, is not an alumni from Oregon like Phil Knight is, and he's now, owner of Nike, right? So I get that. And what's up, man? Thank you for joining in. Dan Lanning was on the Pat McAfee show, and he said, I think it's impressive that guys like Kirby Smart have been signing the #1 class in the nation without any NIL money. And that's key because no one ever takes shots at these guys for like, oh, you have this, top ranking class. And now that Oregon's making moves, people will come out of us, man, we're jumping into the pool. Y'all need to step aside and actually talk about us because what did he say last year when Coach Prime was talking about us? They're playing for clicks. We're playing for wins. So if y'all want to go out there and get some clickbait on us, by all means, talk about it because guess what? We're still focused on what we need to do. And right now it's going into fall camp, showing what we got into these skill drills, showing what we got in practices, giving these practices like it's game time, like it's a national championship. Because once the ball starts rolling and the schedule comes out, it's game time every time. And we talked about how important the first 3 games are before we head into that first bye week to go into the Big Ten this year. So that's big. 99-13. I mentioned that earlier. What does that mean? Last year, freshman wide receiver Jurrion Dickey was a great prospect. Wore 99. Oh, that's a wide receiver. That's a cringe number, right? 99 for a wide receiver. He had his reasons, right? But he recently moved to the number 13. And he said, I moved to 13 because I gave myself 13 things I wanted to do before we got to this season. And he accomplished all those things before he even got to that number 13. One was academics. One was losing weight. One was getting better just in his drills. And he is able to do all of that. He has slimmed down on some weight. He did get his academics up as well. This kid is phenomenal. And we could see a great season for Jurrion Dickey, just being a role player in the wide receiver room as well, behind your Evan Stewart, Trayshawn Holden, Tez Johnson, all your other guys there. Jurrion Dickey, though, can make an impact. And the fact that he made this move personally and made these adjustments personally says a lot, because when the guy's writing down things he wants to do before he makes an adjustment in his own career, but yet he goes out there and attacks and accomplishes every single one of those things, and he says, now I'm ready. That's a guy I don't necessarily want to be on the opposite side of, because that's a guy that's determined to not only win, but to give the best effort for his team. And football is a team sport, right? So Jurrion Dickey has a mission. And moving to number 13, I think people need to be on watch, because this kid is ready to go out there and compete. He said, look, I accomplished and I competed against myself, and I defeated that old me. Here's the new me. That's going to be big, and I'm excited to see what he does in this Oregon offense this season. Dan Lanning is building a culture. I've said it multiple times. I'm going to say it throughout the season. He is building an atmosphere in Eugene that players want to flock to. Players want to fight for him. He wants to go out there and say, look, I am one of your top coaches in the NCAA. I am a top coach in college. The University of Oregon is doing phenomenal things. We are just getting started. Fall camp is along the way. Follow me on X at the PPR. So we're going to be talking about fall camp. We'll do some highlights and see even next week when we bring the old back. Until next time, I am SC Romero. This is the CFB Nation. Peace.
All right, everybody got goals and aspirations. You know how you get those? You be the best where you're at.
What does Evan Stewart bring to the table here? In short, you get a baller.
The grass is not always green. In fact,